Go ahead and get started here.
There wasn't a contact that went.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody. We'll go get started here with the agenda. If you don't mind standing, we'll go ahead and say the prayer and the pledge of allegiance of the flag.
Heavenly Father, as always, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. We thank you for this this Christmas season, as it as it's quickly approaching. Father, may we always remember the reason for the season. That we're here to celebrate the birth of your Son, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Father, as we have folks here in Talbot County that are coming to and going from, may we wish them safe travels wherever that may be for them and their families throughout the season. We pray for their safety, their security, and just a wonderful time with family and friends. And we just thank you for all the blessings that you bestow upon our county. In Jesus' most precious and only name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stepp. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Start off with the agenda. The council's had a chance to take a look at the agenda. Is there any additions, deletions, or correction to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Okay. Hearing none, the agenda is accepted as unanimous consent. Okay. Next on the agenda is the minutes. We've had a chance to take a look at the minutes of October 29th. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes?
Nope.
Okay. All right. The chair moves that the minutes be accepted as unanimous consent. Okay, next is the disbursements of December 3rd and December 10th, and we've had a chance to take a look at those. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the disbursements? Okay. You good? You good? Okay. Okay, the chair moves that the disbursements be accepted as unanimous consent. Okay. First on the agenda is a presentation of the Talbot County Tourism Board. If you guys want to come on up. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Is Martha coming? Okay. So I don't think Martha's with us yet. So. Oh, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us this evening. Cassandra Vanhooser, Talbot County Economic Development and Tourism. My chairman, Judy Bixler, of the Tourism Board. We have a number of members of the Tourism Board here tonight. Also, a number of interested members who are tourism partners who are also here this evening. And
Martha Sparks, Finance Director for Talbot County.
all righty. So you have in your packet an updated PowerPoint presentation that outlines the proposal from the Tourism Board, and it details both the amount of revenue that this proposal would generate and the uses of the tax revenue. So I won't review that information unless you need me to do so, but I will give you an overview of the steps that we've taken to get to here tonight. The Tourism Board first presented their proposal at a public work session with the Talbot County Council on August 27th. At that meeting, you asked us to present the information to the towns and seek their support. The town of Easton voted 5-0 to support the proposal on September 3rd. The town of Oxford voted 3-0 to support the proposal on September 24th. The town of St. Michael's voted 4-1 to support the proposal on September 25th. In your annual meeting with the two state legislators, the delegates, and the state senator, Johnny Mounts, we laid out the proposal again. And at that meeting, you requested a public meeting and a presentation to the town of Trapp. So I presented to the town of Trapp on December 4th, and they voted 4-1 to support with one person abstaining. Now, I did not present to the town of Queen Anne. However, they considered the request I submitted in writing, and they also voted 3-0 to support the request. The Tourism Board also held a public meeting on December 3rd, specifically for accommodations tax collectors, and a number showed up to express their concerns. Among the concerns is that we are in a price-sensitive market, and that they believe this will drive business to other jurisdictions. Also, the overwhelming request was to know what the money will be used for. Though many didn't understand that the towns control much of the revenue of what is collected, and that's within 1 mile of their borders. So we also distributed a survey to all the accommodations tax collectors that we have email addresses for, and you have these results along with a survey that was created by a private citizen who owns a short-term rental. So you are the final approval needed for the proposed accommodations tax increase to move forward. So here we are with our deadline for submitting to the state delegation looming, asking you to support the proposal from the Talbot County Tourism Board. Now, I'm going to toss it to Martha to sort of lay out what her proposal is, which would be separate from the rate increase, and then Captain Judy can make some comments, and then I'll bring us home.
Okay.
So my request is currently in Talbot County's Public Accommodation Tax Code, when there's a failure to comply with payment of the accommodations tax for a period of 120 days from the date it's due, the county can impose a 10% penalty. We are allowed to do that, or we're required to grant that 120-day grace period. That's part of Maryland law. Talbot County and Wycomico County are the only ones that provide that extended grace period, and my request is that council would approve a request to the legislature to reduce that to being paid, where they must be paid 1 month after they're due before that 10% penalty becomes effective.
Kevin, Judy?
Yep.
I just want to let you know that the Tourism Board is representative of every one of our entities in the tourism business, and we have voted unanimously after many, many months and years of study of this accommodation tax, and we feel it is really imperative in order for us to be able to continue to market our area and to have the communities be able to afford to take up the expenses of having tourism here, for you to please approve this. We are the lowest rate in the entire state. The other thing that is important is that we have to go through the steps. You're a step in the middle of this process. We then have to go to the state and get them to get the approval. And if we can get the state approval, you still have the ability to decide how and when that tax would be increased if they approve it. And so we really feel that it's important that we get to the next step. This is the first time in a long time that we've had every single community voting unanimously. Over the years, we have not had an increase since, I think, 2004. So that's 20 years that we have not changed the amount of the accommodations tax. So I really wanted to impress upon you that this is an important aspect. We love our communities, and we feel that we can best market our communities and bring people here, and then let the towns and communities pay for the services that they're using. It's not a tax on our individual county residents. It's a tax on those that visit us. And the other reason that we feel it's very important is tourism is a really important factor here in our county. It's a clean industry. It brings us all together. We, as Talbot County, are an icon of many of the tourism entities in our state, and we'd like to continue to be able to provide that. Thank you.
So I'll summarize for you in this way. You're really being called on to balance the effects on tourism businesses with the benefits to the towns and the county. The Tourism Board has weighed the evidence, and they, and yes, we, believe that the benefits outweigh the disadvantages. Now, there are people here who would disagree with that, and I respect their opinion, but we believe the following. Nobody likes to pay taxes, and nobody likes to collect taxes, but somebody has to pay for the services that visitors use. All 5 of our towns have voted publicly to support this request. The Tourism Board has voted publicly multiple times to support this request. Some of our largest tax collectors, I reached out to them, and they have stated they either support the proposal or that they simply will not oppose it, although there are others, as I have acknowledged, who do not support it in any way and feel that we already have an escalator for collecting the tax and that it will hurt their business. But I will say the Tourism Board would not recommend something that they believed was harmful to the hospitality and tourism industry. And it's just that simple. Research shows that accommodations tax rates do not overly influence a visitor's choice of destinations. It does influence groups more than transients, but it is not the deciding factor in most travel decisions. Other jurisdictions in the state of Maryland have increased their accommodations tax rates, and many others have much higher rates than ours, and it has not resulted in fewer bookings. Howard County, 7%, Montgomery County, 7%, Anne Arundel just raised theirs to 8%, Garrett County's at 8%, Baltimore City and County both at 9.5%, and Baltimore City has a 2% tourism improvement district that they also impose. So some jurisdictions around the world have imposed taxes as a punitive measure to try and curb over-tourism. That is not the case here. The simple need for additional revenue to offset the cost of tourism to local jurisdictions is the genesis of this proposal. So I think you really have two decisions here to make. One, do you support a 2% tax rate increase?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is, do you support Martha's proposal for the change in the collection timeframe?
Okay.
So the
Right.
ball is now in your court, and
Okay.
you have a decision to make.
We sure do. Discussion? Mm-hmm.
Cassandra, thank you all for your presentation here this evening. We recognize that the tourism industry is a very distinct part of Talbot County. Do you have the economic impact of the tourism industry in Talbot County?
Yes, it is 203 million, and I'm quoting from memory here, but I can get you those exact numbers. And here's I think the real impact is it employs almost 2,000 people directly and indirectly in our county. And we pay for a study in partnership with the state of Maryland and other counties to get these numbers.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So 203 million and 2,000 jobs.
Yes, and that's revenue, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Good. Yep.
Is the accommodations tax based on the amount that the lodging source charges for the lodging?
Yes, it includes.
So if it's gone up in 20 years, then the amount that is received under the 4% has also gone up without increasing the 4%, correct?
That's correct.
That would be correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Lesher?
I want to thank the Tourism Board members for all the work that you've been doing on this, the due diligence, the public hearing that you heard, the feedback that you've received back, and also your professional consideration from all the sectors that you represent on the board. And I appreciate your unanimous recommendation on this. Thank you for all the due diligence that you've put into taking this process this far.
Good. So, so do we want to vote on these two questions separately? Okay. Do we need a motion?
I'll start with a motion. So this is a motion to authorize a letter to our state delegation to request the legislation. And I'll start with a motion to request legislation to reduce the grace period for payment of the accommodations tax to 1 month.
Correct.
30 days. I second that motion.
Okay. We got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay. Second.
And I'll move that we authorize a letter to the state delegation again to request an increase in the Talbot County accommodations tax from 4% to 6% as recommended by the Tourism Board.
Do you want to do that before public comments in case anybody has comments at the end?
We can put the motion on the table. I can hold the motion if you want to collect public comment first.
We can do that. You mean to the very end?
I think we should.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we should.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're not going to do public comment at this juncture?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so I'll go ahead and start with public comment. Okay?
On this particular item.
On this particular item, yes, sir. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I have a handout for you.
And just make sure,
One for,
remind them of the
one for each commissioner.
and did they sign the box off?
They would,
Well, they would have been staying until the end,
Yeah, they would stay to the end.
just to make
He
sure.
gets 5
Small
minutes.
one and a big one.
Yep, exactly.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. How are you this evening?
Okay, so let me make sure I tell you the rules. Okay, so for an individual, it's 3 minutes. For a business, it's 5.
For an organization representing multiple ones, so that multiple ones don't have to speak.
Yep. Yep.
I'll make it to 3.
Okay.
I've given you a sheet that Cassandra sent me some information last week, and I've tweaked this
What,
spreadsheet.
I'm sorry, would you mind identifying who you are?
My name is
Yeah.
Scott Wagner.
Yeah.
I am the managing partner for 25876, which is a partnership that owns the Oaks Waterfront Inn in Royal Oak. We attended the presentation last week, and actually this issue came up in Pennsylvania, so I'm very familiar with it. But I've done a spreadsheet, and it shows you the one with the most amount of numbers. It starts in 2009 and goes down to 2024. And numbers I don't think people are really aware of, but I think they're good to point out. Over the last 16 years, 21.5 million has been collected in taxes. And then if you go across, Easton received, 6.4, Oxford, St. Michael's, Talbot County. I broke out the STRs, the short-term rentals, away from the B&Bs, so you can see that short-term rental revenue is growing. Talbot County receives a 5% fee, so over the last 16 years, they've received almost 1.1 million in collection fees. The Tourism Bureau's received 4.8. So I've given you, one of the arguments I heard, and I struggle with this, but I've heard that the tax hasn't gone up in 20 years. Well, I've given you the small sheet, and I took a $100 room rate in 2009, and I did a 5% escalator for the last 16 years. So all that, in 2009, that tax was $4. Today, it is $8.32, and under the new scenario, will go to $13.10.
Could you
So-
explain the escalators, because on average, you've raised your room rates by 5% every year?
Well, in our
Is
situation.
that what representing the room rate?
Our room rates have gone up more than that, some, but in this range. But today, we're faced with, we're all paying housekeepers a lot more money, in some situations, double what we're paid several years ago. And, our taxes have gone up, and at the Oaks, our cost per room is up about between $50 and $100 a night. Has to do with the taxes, our housekeeping, wage increases, everything involved in operating our business. So the argument that room rates, while the fee hasn't gone up, it essentially has ridden the wave of inflation, so to speak. But I think that we understand what the Tourism Bureau is trying to accomplish, but I think we all need to understand the numbers. And so specifically, I would ask, like in St. Michael's, what is the actual net? Because you would have to take 28% off the top that they collected this year. What are they left over with? What are they doing with the money? Is it going to police protection? Is anything going to tourism? What I'm being told is in the town of St. Michael's, they have an allocation. They cut the tourism budget back dramatically. So I think we all want to know where the money is going, but this goes into a deeper principle. This is feeding the monster. And the monster is asking for $1 million more next year. So, and the monster's going to get fatter. I've never seen a tax I've never seen a tax go down, quite frankly. So I just think what I wanted to present tonight, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And we do consider ourselves partners with this county. We are also spending individually a lot of money on marketing ourselves. I will tell you, the Inner Cabin, Blue Point, which doesn't have rooms, the Tidewater and the Oaks, we are collectively easily spending in excess of $1 million a year just on marketing efforts. And it might be closer to $2 million if you factor in, you know, what Blue Point's doing. But I just think it's important that everybody understand the numbers. And this is a breathtaking increase. This is a 50% increase. And I guess we just want to know where the money's going. There has to be accountability. Because again, the monster just gets bigger and bigger, and we just need to understand. So I thank you for your time. And I do want to point out, and this is not us versus them. We want to be win-win. We want our properties to prosper, but there's a lot to this, to the pie here. So I appreciate your
Yep.
you know, your listening to me and the
Yes.
opportunity to present.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. Thank you.
So you have 8 other folks that have signed up. If
Okay.
you'd like me to go down the list.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. George Wilson.
Yep.
Good evening. I don't really need the microphone, but my name is George Wilson. I am one of the owners of the Old Brick Inn in St. Michael's, which has been operating in the same location since 1996. So for 28 years, I can be redundant with Scott, but the bottom line is this. When we ask where is the money going, and St. Michael's gives us an answer, out of their $1 million in the last 3 years, they allocated $45,000, not per year, $45,000. So when we're told that we need the money for infrastructure, I use the logic of, so the tourists are why we need more police? I don't find the tourists in St. Michael's to be threats to the police. So my suggestion is that maybe there is cause for this. Maybe a reallocation is in order. And I would suggest that you consider tabling this event. And by the way, in case you don't know it, this is the 4th attempt by the Tourism Board to raise the accommodation tax in the last 10 years. So, and I can also tell you from personal experience that when St. Michael's approved this proposal, it had not been put out for public comment to the lodging operators in St. Michael's. Myself and one other gentleman were the only 2 people as lodging operators who were at that meeting. And we found out about it, if you will, through the wire.
Gotcha.
So I would consider tabling this till more work can be done, not the same work. Explain to us as the taxpayers, where was this money spent and why is it an accommodation tax? Where I live, we don't have large, other than here, we don't have large tourism business. So when work needs to be done on infrastructure, it typically goes into other forms of tax. So I want to thank you for your consideration on that and say that I hope we can reach a common ground here where everybody's pulling together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I think there's,
Hold tight now. We've got a list here. Yes, sir.
Mr. Travis Johnson.
Yes. Hey, Clay, can you get his name, please?
His name is Will.
Yeah.
Will Workman.
Yeah. Yep.
Hello, my name is Travis Johnson.
How you
I
doing?
am both a resident of St. Michael's in Talbot County, and I also run the Old Brick Inn.
Okay.
I just have a quick comment that, based on this survey, 73% of those asked believe that the increase in the accommodations tax will negatively affect their business. That's a very important number. 73.3% of those surveyed believe that this will negatively affect their business. I believe this needs to be tabled until more information is available, until the financials are clear and transparent of where the money is going. I work day to day with guests that come. Guests already complain about rates. And do you know where they always say, what can you do for me? We're discounting our profit because we can't discount taxes. You know, it's to touch on both what George and Scott said, it is an escalator. You know, we're trying to, my costs have gone up, both labor, materials, everything. But I can't raise my rates too high because guests are already complaining. I don't want to see St. Michael's be the next Ocean City where it's too expensive to go there. And that's what's happening, and that's what I'm afraid I asked Talbot County Council to please make an informed decision and table this until you have all of the information from both sides. Don't make a rash decision that'll affect my future as the next residents here of Talbot County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kevin Mills, Osmond?
Not about this issue, it's about the sewer plant.
I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
Okay.
We'll jump down to Michelle Hoyle.
Hello. Thank you guys for having us tonight. My name
True.
is Michelle Hoyle. I am the business owner of Talbot Vacations.
Ma'am, could you sit down in the chair and talk into the mic? I'd appreciate it, so
Sure.
people could hear you. Yeah.
I'd like to stress that this will impose very hardships on my company as well as the other business owners. 2% may not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things. However, when we are in such a market, a competitive market, when it comes to rentals and it comes to hospitality, this is hugely impactful. Talbot County has always been big about keeping our short-term rentals away from the Airbnb market or the VRBO market. We are literally giving them this on a silver platter. Big corporations like that are able to just absorb these funds. The 2% may not seem like that will put me under. Cost of, like the others have said, the cost of housekeeping, the cost to provide an excellent service, as well as the screening to make sure that these visitors that are coming are of the caliber that we want to come and stay with us. That is important to our company, to my company specifically, and VRBOs, Airbnbs will not guarantee you that. We will, however, we're gonna be put under because of this. They can afford to absorb it, I cannot.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Tad DuPont.
Like the others, thank you for having us tonight. I'd like to speak first on the ordinance you already passed. I congratulate you for doing that. I thought it was wrong for years that the council didn't collect the money monthly. I paid monthly since 1986. Now, I'll tell you a story that backs up part of what happened. I was the treasurer of St. Michael's for the 2 years of COVID. Yes, we cut the tourism budget, and we cut it pretty hard because we didn't know what we were facing. We didn't know what kind of people were coming, if they were coming, and we didn't know where our money was to be able to handle it. So now that you all have passed this, I would expect as a treasurer of St. Michael's, though I'm not that anymore, to get a monthly check from the county for the taxes that were collected the month before. What does that do? That gives the towns, and would give you all, a much better read on your budget process and a much better way to handle it. So I may be responsible for part of that, but that was only because we are trying to be proactive during the COVID period. Now, discussion at hand. I have been against this raise for a long time. Cassandra knows that. We agree on a lot, but we don't agree on this. The Talbot County should use the fact that we have the lowest tax rates in the state as an advertising tool. Where we go wrong in Talbot County, and where we go wrong, I think, in all the little towns, is we have a real dead period on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's where we all could make it a lot better if we had an opportunity to increase the occupancy rates during that period of time. It would seem to me that instead of looking at raising the tax so that we are equal with everybody else, which is really not a really good way to do it, is possibly we should consider lowering it back to 3%. Now, you can find those numbers easy, because just take the proposal divided by 2 and go on a county-wide promotion where we are promoting room rents, room occupancies on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday corridor, and make it significant. Have everybody work at it, where you can advertise state round that maybe rooms are 45% off, and you couple it with some activity, and change up how we're doing this, because we're doing the same thing, and every time we do the same thing, nothing happens. It's not different. So what I'm saying is, think about something different. Think about an alternative. Think about what would happen if you lowered it a penny instead of raising it 2, and how you could promote being the lowest taxed lodging industry in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kevin Hartman. And Angeline Hartman.
Hello, guys. Kevin and Angeline Hartman, Ferry Bridge House in Easton, unincorporated Talbot County. Thank you for hearing everybody today. I think our main concern is this. We were part of the process of the independent survey. I hope you guys got a copy of it. If you haven't, I'd like to introduce it for the record. A couple points on the survey. Our survey and the survey that Ms. Vanhooser conducted through the Talbot County Tourism Department were completely in line. The number one question was, is this going to impact your business negatively? And all those responded. The majority, ours was 82%, and I think the county survey was a little less, but in the 70 percentile range. So they all feel like it's going to impact their business. That is kind of what we wanted to make sure, is that the lodging partners all had a voice in this process. So thank you for delaying your vote until you could hear from everyone. That's really our main concern. We just got our short-term rental license a year ago, so we're new to this. What we would ask is that listen to all the experience in this room. This is the face of tourism of Talbot County, the lodging providers. These are the ones that, in the 2,000 jobs that are generated, they're the ones that create the jobs. They're the small business owners. They're the drivers of Talbot County. So our concern is to listen to what they're saying and take that into consideration. What they're saying, and I know there's some people to speak after us. Final point is this. You have in your package letters from the 5, I believe, the towns in the county. Each one of those voted for the increase. But the significant difference is this. None of those towns heard what you're hearing tonight. None of those towns have the results of this survey at the time of their vote. None of those towns held a public hearing on the matter. There was no input asked for from any of the lodging providers at the time of their vote. So while I respect these votes, I think they were significantly undereducated as to the ramifications of what this raise would do. And I'll defer to my hostess here.
I think he has basically said it all. We just want to make sure that everybody makes an informed decision when they make their decision, because we all are here to work together and do the best for Talbot County. We all want the same thing, I think, and that's why we just want to make sure that everybody understands and gets all the perspectives. So we appreciate your time.
Okay, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Will Workman. That will complete those assigned
Okay, thank you.
for this subject.
Yep.
Will Workman, St. Michael's. We have owned the Parsonage Inn since 1985, and we developed the George Brooks House as one of the designated historic properties here in this county. I've been involved with collecting taxes since the late 1980s, room taxes, as well as, of course, the sales tax. My biggest concern is that there's no floor or requirement of what should be set aside for directly promoting tourism. The town of St. Michael's was free to drive it almost to zero. When this legislation was initially passed, I think it was 86 or 87, we were told that a majority of the funds would go to directly promoting tourism. as it stands now, they're free to use the funds as part of general revenue. There's no floor, there's no requirement that 20%, 30%, 40% be used to directly promote tourism. In the last few years, my business has gone down about 10%, 12% this year, about 10% last. So we're in a downward trend competing in this tourism market. And what I don't see is where St. Michael's or this county is spending that much money. We're pulling in $2 million of accommodation tax. What was the total spent directly promoting tourism? So I would recommend you set a floor or ceiling, not a ceiling, a floor that at least 20 or 30% or 40% or even 50% of majority is spent on directly promoting. As it stands, the jurisdictions can drive it to zero. They can just use it for general revenue. And I think that is wrong. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, come on up. Yep.
Hi friends, my name is Jessica Bellis. I sit on the Talbot County Tourism Board. I'm also the Chief Operating and Finance Officer for the Avalon Foundation in Easton, Maryland. There are just a few points that I'd love to just remind everybody about. Respectfully, I hear the stress and the pain of a lot of our accommodations partners about this tax. I just want to remind everybody that it's not them that's paying the tax. It is the people who come and stay in those accommodations. And so as someone who does love to travel, perhaps they're at a competitive advantage being here in Talbot County, but mostly putting us in better line with the rest of the state just gives you and the towns more access to the funds that you need both to be able to promote tourism and offset all of the costs associated there. So, you know, this is a tax that is on people who come here to help offset the expenses that they create. It's an expense that helps us to promote the town and the county. I will say that the Avalon Foundation is a beneficiary of some of those funds through the town of Easton, and we hold a lot of events that have a huge tourism impact and brings accommodations. It brings accommodations, heads and beds, if you will, to a lot of our partner businesses. But also, you know, Cassandra's office is a promotional partner for us too. So the dollars that we spend with Cassandra are matched by dollars that are created by the accommodations tax. We can use words like the monster that you're feeding, but the monster is making sure that we do have the roads and the infrastructure and the police department and the marketing to be able to promote and sustain tourism, which is a major industry here in Talbot County. You have the support of your towns. You have the support of the tourism board that you have, and we've been appointed to help to advise you. A lot of work has gone into this, and this is a funding source that both the county and the towns can use to offset these costs. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, thank you. I'm Jeff Schneider. I'm the general manager for the Hampton Inn Hotel here in Easton, and I'm also on the tourism board. Just want to make a point that, again, as has been said before, it is the traveling guests that come into the county that are paying this, so it's not a burden on our citizens. Having run the hotel for 12 years and been active in Talbot County tourism for 12 years, I think I got a good perspective on it. I've also been in the tourism industry over 25 years in other areas. We're the lowest in Talbot County, or in Maryland. We're also the lowest in the vast majority of the Mid-Atlantic region. So people are not choosing to stay here or somewhere else because of the fact that we are 2% lower in tax. As a hotelier for years, and also, you know, we're an affiliate with Hilton Hotels. No one asks, what is the tax? They ask, what is the total, and is it in their budget to stay at my hotel or a competing hotel or a bed and breakfast? So the 2% addition is not going to drive people to us or away from us. From a competitive standpoint, you know, I'm a friendly competitor with all of our partners in Talbot County as well as the Eastern Shore. When somebody comes to us and says, you know, for instance, that maybe I'm not in their budget, I'll ask them who might be in their budget. And because if they're not going to stay with me, I want them to stay somewhere else in Talbot County. The former GM for the Inn at Perry Cabin was for this. The former owner of Tidewater Vacation Rentals was for this as well. So I think it's, I think just puts I think my perspective for years I've been saying, we're just leaving good money on the table. Guests are willing to pay it. The other part of this is it's not just the tourism side. For instance, my hotel is basically a corporate hotel. So you have the corporations who are housing people in Talbot County when they come to the Eastern Shore to do business that are also paying this tax. So a large percentage of that is going to be companies who have people traveling that are going to be paying the tax, not just the individual tourism guests.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else like to come up? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Frank Gonzalez. I'm Town Council President for Easton. I'm here not in my official capacity, I guess sort of, but our vote already occurred. But after hearing all of the testimonies tonight, and especially Mr. Hartman's in regards to the fact that perhaps we could have been better educated before we voted, I believe that people reserve the right to change their mind. And I know our votes were cast, but I am on your record withdrawing my support for this accommodations tax. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else like to come up? Anybody else? Okay.
I have a
Mr. Lesher?
follow-up question
Yep.
for Ms. Vanhooser,
Yep.
if she could return.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I pulled up your presentation from August or September when you showed us the figures about what, among other things, what we've collected in accommodations tax, and you sorted out what is passed along to Easton, to Oxford, to St. Michael's, and what is collected in the unincorporated portions of the county that is retained. And it looks like the county is collecting, that it's not turning over to the municipalities, in the neighborhood of $250,000, $250,000 a year.
It's more like 450.
Oh, it's 450? Okay. I recall that the state mandates that the county allocate its collections to tourism and economic development.
That's right.
Can you tell us what it is that the county, just remind me our budget figures for what we spend on tourism promotion?
I should have brought that with me, and I apologize. My total budget, the legislation, Chapter 172, Article 2, was, I suppose, developed by us many years ago, and it dictates that the towns may use the money to offset the cost of tourism-related activities. They can use their money however they choose. The county must use their money for tourism and economic development activities. So you fund my entire department, and my budget is in the $800,000 range. So you're spending what you collect plus that amount. Now, I would have to get you the exact numbers to be able to have a thorough conversation. But, it's not true that we're not mandated, that there is no floor. There is a floor, and it's Talbot County's floor. It's not the town's floor.
Right.
So, just to answer Mr. Gonzalez, the Easton Economic Development, who I believe is funded through their accommodations tax, did reach out to the tourism partners in the town before their vote. you know, I believe that they were informed that this vote was coming up and did not show up to the meetings.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the follow-up information. So in sum, without looking at precise numbers, we're spending on the order nearly twice.
Yes.
Investing nearly twice in tourism promotion
And economic development.
and economic development as we are collecting in accommodations tax
Yes.
currently.
Yes. And that includes staff. That includes,
Understood.
you know, all of the things that we do.
But we know all that you do and how much you do to
So
promote
at our
tourism in
public
this county.
meeting, you know, I handed out a comprehensive list of all the things we do on the tourism side. Did not include the economic development side.
Sure.
But you know, our meetings are open to the public, and we welcome anyone who'd like to come.
Thank you. So the towns have more wiggle room, if you will, fewer restrictions on how to allocate this. That can be a conversation that can take place with each of the municipalities as they go through their budget process.
Exactly.
Okay.
They determine how they spend their money, but by law, they're able to spend it to offset the cost of tourism.
Understood. Thank you very much.
So one more question.
Yeah, sure.
So if the county in the state law has to directly allocate the money to tourism, how do we make sure that that law applies to the towns? Because what we heard tonight was that those in the municipalities do not feel that the money is being allocated to tourism, hence promoting the Old Brick Inn for their getaway, which the state of Maryland will partner with us to do so. So if the municipalities are not doing this to help support the businesses, how can the county ensure that the law states that it has to be specifically for tourism like we have to adhere to?
So you would have to change the law at the state legislature level. You would make that request to Johnny, Chris, and Tom. But I would say that, you know, you should ask the towns as well, because I think that they believe they are supporting businesses and supporting tourism. Now, I know there has been a shift in St. Michael's and how they spend their money, and I am not speaking for them, but I know that the Oxford Business Association gets money from Oxford's collection, and I know that the town of Easton, because I spoke to the mayor about it yesterday, feels that they reinvest in the business community. So TRAP is not currently, they have new regulations, but they're not currently collecting any tax, and the town of Queen Anne is not. But they both have the ability to do so under our current laws. So back to your original question, you would need to change the law.
Okay. So maybe we need a work session with the municipalities, as Mr. Lesher said,
Well,
to discuss as well.
Yeah, I think that can be addressed as a separate issue. I don't think that needs to hold up this process.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I think it does, Mr. Lusher. I mean, you can't, you know, vote on something and say, well, you know, we'll adjust it later.
Well, so we've already split this into two issues. One is how long the grace period is for collections. The second issue is, which we'll address in a second letter if we authorize it, is the rate of collection, and we could address again separately, but probably with further input from the municipalities, whether a floor, as has been suggested, might be put on what the municipalities might allocate of their share of this accommodations tax toward tourism promotion.
With all due respect, Mr. Lesher, you can't say, okay, well, we'll vote for the increase and then we'll deal with how it's going to be allocated in the future. I mean, you can't do that.
Well, we know how the county's portion is going to be allocated. That's already set in law.
It is, yeah. Agreed. I said agreed.
You agree with him?
Given that the state is on a set timetable, and if we don't get these letters into to our delegation before the start of term, I think the chance rapidly declines that any action takes place in legislative session in the state this year. We're aware of this. That's why we've put it off until this time, to be able to collect the feedback that we've collected.
What is the deadline?
Well, session starts in January.
Yeah, but that's not the deadline.
This is the last, well, it is not the deadline, but you know very well that the later a bill is introduced in session, the less its chance of getting a hearing.
I don't know that, but.
So I believe that Delegate Adams requested that we have a request into them no later than January 15th.
Right.
And that was at our session with them on October 1st.
And with the request, the state would still have to approve.
Certainly,
Yeah.
it still has to, it still has a long way to go. It has to be passed by both the House and the Senate.
Exactly.
This is simply a request for legislative action.
It's enabling legislation to enable you to raise your accommodations tax rate. But it does have those specifics included in it.
Okay.
So I'll put my motion back on the table to issue the letter to our state delegation requesting legislation for enabling legislation for an accommodations tax increase from 4% to 6% for Talbot County.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Secretary, we got a motion second to send the letter. Call, vote, please.
Mr. Callahan?
No.
Mr. Stepp?
No.
Mr. Lusher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
No.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
You got
Sir.
Is this in order now?
Well, one last thing.
I have one technical question.
Okay.
We all collect sales tax, okay? And part of the discussion with the delegation is, what happens to the sales tax that we collect, and what percentage comes back to this county, and in what form? That's another discussion that has to be had.
Okay.
And I think it has to simultaneously. Listen, nobody won tonight, and we're gonna be back, we're gonna figure this out.
Right.
Because we love this county, and
Right.
I've invested very heavily, but these are the kind of questions, the amount of sales tax is beyond breathtaking. And I think that's where there has to be a bigger conversation. We send it across, but we get nothing in return.
We'll have a conversation.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. 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 All right. Next
Say
on
they
the,
can stay for,
next, do what? Yeah.
anybody who wants to comment can wait till the end.
Yeah, I know it. I just. Okay. Next on the agenda is the introduction of a number resolution. Madam Secretary, you go ahead and read that.
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real properties located at 9802 Ocean Gateway and 9818 Ocean Gateway, Easton, Maryland, shown on tax map 25 as parcels 5 and 6 from unprogrammed to W1S1, immediate priority status pursuant to an application filed by the McNeil Family Trust.
Okay. You want to come on up, Mr. Clark?
Hey, Clark, County Engineer. Council, we did receive the application from the property owner to seeking an amendment to the Comp Water Sewer Plan. We then worked with the Office of Law to prepare the resolution for your all review and introduction tonight. At this point, if the council chooses to introduce this, we would be presenting this to the Public Works Advisory Board at their December 19th meeting for a recommendation of the County Council, and also at the Planning Commission meeting on January 8th. And that would be for the remaining resolutions as well that we're talking about tonight.
All right. Any questions from council? Okay. Raise a hand to enter.
I believe it's not completely clear to me from this, but this parcel has been annexed into Easton. Is this a recent annexation?
I believe, yes, and then, it's my understanding that ultimately this is, parcel we're talking about, we did receive an application as well as a letter from the towns in support of amending the comp water sewer plan for this parcel.
And is there a development proposal for this property contingent on this?
I'm not aware of that part, no, I'm not aware.
Okay. Want to show of hands to introduce? My good hand.
Introduced by Callahan and Stepp.
The public hearing will be on Tuesday, January 14th at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Next one, Madam Secretary?
Oh, it'll be Resolution 365.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real properties located on the east side of US Route 50, south of Dutchman's Lane, Easton, Maryland, shown on tax map 34 as parcels 128 and 175 from W3, S3, and unprogrammed, respectively, to W1, S1, immediate priority status, pursuant to an application filed by Corrigan and Trip Ventures, LLC.
And again, we received the application on this. This is actually a development project for residential properties in this area. So that, you know, we did receive that request as well as a letter from the town of Easton supporting this.
And Mr. Clark, I believe this is the property that we recently had a zoning waiver in front of us because of Easton's recent annexation of this property.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Council, show of hands, introduction.
Introduced by Stepp, Leshner, and Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
This will be known as Resolution Number 366, and the public hearing will be on Tuesday, January 14th at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Next, Madam Secretary.
A resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 7510 Quaker Neck Road, Bosman, Maryland, shown on tax map 39 as parcel 79 from unprogrammed to S1, immediate priority status, pursuant to an application filed by Kevin Mills.
Again, sir, we did receive the application from the property owner, and this is, again, seeking to amend the comp water sewer plan for the Bosman area to go to S1 sewer service. This parcel consists of about 4 acres. It is it is an improved lot. Sewer will be extended to the area, and it would be feasible to connect to this property.
I'm sorry, you said about 4 acres?
It is, currently it's 4.1 acres plus, or 4 acres plus or minus.
So it's got one dwelling and
Correct.
it's not subdividable?
Right. To my knowledge, it is not subdividable.
Mr. Clark, it looks from the map on this looks like this goes a little bit beyond the area that is currently in the comprehensive water sewer plan for sewer connection. Is there a reason why this would have been resolution 250?
This is 250. This is 250.
And why because I remember there was a lot of care to the criteria for resolution 250 and what was in and what was out. What was the rationale then, and how have the circumstances changed?
This in this situation, I think the resolution 250, we try to create breakpoints and utilizing the tier maps. The one thing I would say that in the review of the tier maps and in discussions with environmental health, let's say 10 years ago, in our discussions with environmental health, when you typically have a parcel on the water that's, let's say, 3 acres or less, it becomes very difficult to find enough suitable land area for a replacement drain field. So this, again, this is on the water. It's about 4 acres, but you do run into issues, with other environmental, things on the property that can, reduce your land area. So this is a potential scenario where, we look at, when we're on the water, we currently have what we call high groundwater with poor draining soils, and so if these property owners, if they're ground coupled, their septic system's ground coupled and the groundwater's rising on them, they don't have a whole lot of treatment zone they penetrate that, and ultimately it does create problems for all the houses in these areas. But we will, one of the things I think we'll do with, is we'll seek environmental health's recommendation on this resolution as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we want to show a raise of hands?
For sponsorship, introduced by Callahan and Stepp.
This will be known as resolution number 367, and the public hearing will be on Tuesday, January 14th at 5:30.
Okay.
Again, council, we received the application for this parcel. Again, this is, I guess, some industrial or general commercial, if not industrial parcels. It's in the town tract, and ultimately it consists of 37.86 acres in the town tract. You know, at this point in time, you know, they're seeking, I guess, the amended Compton sewer plan to provide sewer to that parcel.
Okay. All right. Okay.
This is
Yeah, next. Oh, I'm sorry.
a resolution to amend the Talbot County Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan to reclassify and remap certain real property located at 4502 Old Trap Road, Trap, Maryland, shown on tax map 54 as parcel 302 from unprogrammed to W1S1, immediate priority status pursuant to an application filed by Brian Haas.
This is already annexed in the town.
Yes.
Ray, tell
It
us.
is,
Yep.
to my knowledge, it is annexed
Yeah.
in the town.
Mm-hmm.
And we did receive a letter from the town supporting the application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, this was also subject to a recent annexation and a zoning waiver.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions for Ray, with Ray? Signs of show of hands?
Introduced by Callahan and Stepp.
Okay.
And this will be known as resolution number 368, and the public hearing will be held on Tuesday, January 14th at 5:30 p.m.
That's great. Okay. Next up is County Manager Clay.
Yeah, good evening,
Good
council.
evening.
Thank you. Under County Manager's report, I have several things for you. The first, under board and committee appointments, I'm asking council's approval for a new addition to, a replacement addition on the Police Accountability Board. That would be for a Mr. Brian Naranjo.
Okay.
Motion to approve the
Second.
request.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
No.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you, council. That's all from the board and committee appointments this evening. The first item of business I have is a request from the Department of Parks and Recreation. They are requesting council approval to renew the pool management contract with Coastline Pools for the operation and management of the George Murphy and the Bay Hunter Community Pools for the 2025 season in the total sum of $290,811. The contract will be broken out into 2 fiscal years, FY25 and 26. As with all contracts, it's been thoroughly reviewed and vetted prior to the recommendation, and our experience with this company has been positive and with the management of our pools.
Okay. Council?
I'll second the comments about the successful relationship, and I'll make a motion we approve.
Okay. There's
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you, council. The next item I have is a request from the Department of Facilities Maintenance. They're requesting council approval to award the installation of the courthouse chiller and cooling tower to Electric Automation Services Incorporated, EASI, in the amount of $283,767.50. This would be procured by piggybacking on a contract with Wicomico County. There are sufficient funds in this approved capital budget. This is the final portion of the replacement of the chiller in the courthouse, which also included a new electrical distribution system. It's a CIP project that we're looking forward to getting done.
Motion to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lisher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Thank you, council. At this point, I'll call up your favorite airport manager, Mr. Micah Reesher. Of course, we only have one airport, don't we?
I'm glad he's not our second or third favorite airport manager.
Thank you, Clay. Council, good evening. Micah Risher, the airport manager. Exciting time to be in front of you. This is part of our airfield modernization program, as you well know, is marching right along. This request, it's time for us to press the go button with our partners at FAA to procure the equipment and plan the construction and inspection of our new ILS system out there. So the ILS system is FAA-owned equipment, and it's FAA-maintained equipment. We have a no-cost lease for the space. Very good deal. It's been installed since the year 2020, and our equipment is it's time for an upgrade. So with our airfield modernization, we'll be getting new equipment, some refurbished equipment, and it'll all be relocated so that we can open the new runway in 2026. So tonight's ask is, for one, I'll start by saying, the funds that we're asking to use will be coming out of the airport's cash balance, which we have $2,750,000 approximately in our cash reserves. So that'll be coming out of the airport fund. And what we need to do is forward fund this. The cost will be $602,000. It's noted there in your handout. And the way this works is we need to fund the FAA National Airspace System Planning Group to start procuring this equipment and to get involved with us in the construction process now. That way we can have the equipment ordered and installed, inspected, and ready to go when we open the new runway in 2026. So the way this works is we forward fund it. We give them pay them the $602,000. We literally are going to turn right around in 2025 calendar year and request reimbursement through our ADO. For 95% of that. So the actual cost to Easton Airport is going to be $15,067.65, and we'll turn this money around within 12 months.
Okay. Got a motion?
I so move.
Second.
We got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lisher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay.
Great job, Mike.
Thank you,
Good job.
I appreciate it.
And council, I will call Brennan Tarleton up, your planning officer, and he has a request of you this evening. I'll just let you run with that if you don't mind, and I'll fill in the blanks wherever you need me to.
Good evening, Council. Brennan Tarleton, Planning Director for Talbot County. Here this evening requesting your approval of the acceptance of the grant funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Services in the amount of $979,267.44 for implementing the green infrastructure plan for Tillman on the Chesapeake community. Earlier in this past year, you actually signed the contract with the partnership and the matching funds associated with this very same project. That was offered by DNR in the amount of $433,363 for the implementation of this project. Back in 2021, staff partnered and worked with the Tillman on the Chesapeake Community Foundation to obtain a grant from DNR for a resilient coastline project for this specific site. Obviously, understanding that this is a community-owned parcel, the county did this in partnership with them, understanding that the money, the state funding and the federal funding has to go through a local government entity and not through a private organization. So we partnered with Tillman on the Chesapeake Community Foundation to help them come up with a design of this project with help from DNR and the completion of the project from Baylands Consulting. Now moving forward, they've sought after and obtained the funding for the actual project costs, which is a total of about $1.4 million. The funds between DNR and National Fish and Wildlife Services covers the full amount of this project as it's to be implemented. So we're here tonight asking for your acceptance of the second portion of the funding that will be associated with the implementation of the project itself. It's no cost, it's no matching on the county's part. We're simply working to manage the funds associated with the project and to assist with the construction management as well.
Okay, any questions? Council?
I think
Go ahead.
Pete has comment. Nope.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is green infrastructure. This is what would be called commonly a living shoreline along this.
That's correct. So it's an adaptive approach to a living shoreline scenario by which you implement different types of structures. In the project description that I provided in my memo, it talks about the implementation of 665 feet of linear living shoreline with vented marsh sills, concrete oyster breaks, as well as some marsh mitigation and some sand dunes. That'll help as sea level rise and storm severity increases over time to regenerate that marsh that currently exists there and allow it to continue to exist in that location, not creep landward. So it's not the same as like a bulkhead that ultimately would prevent the shoreline from eroding any further. It's an adaptive approach to allow that shoreline to continue to be sustained over time.
Thank you. I recall between 10 and 15 years ago, Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum received a grant. It must have been through local government, through the same NFWF source. And we did it in 3 phases to convert what had been bulkheaded shoreline into living shoreline. And when the second phase was completed, but the third phase was still in bulkhead, interns from the Chesapeake Bay Trust came down and did sampling along the shoreline, and in the portion that had been planted for just 1 year, they found an abundance of species along that. It truly attracts, I mean, animal species, not just the plants that were put in there, and only yards away, in front of the bulkhead, we had virtually a sterile bay bottom. It is amazing how effective these are in doing exactly what they're designed to do, both protecting the land, but also protecting the health of the waters that are in front of them. So I'll move to accept the grant funding.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Brendan. Thank you, council.
Yeah.
I have one item left. I'm requesting council approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Easton Utilities Commission for the placement of a fiber optic cable in the Broad Creek bore sleeve as a part of the county's extension of the sewer to the villages of Bosman and Nevitt. As outlined, the MOU with Easton Utilities will pay the county $113,000 to defray the county's expense associated with permitting and staff time, as well as a portion of the county's cost associated with the project.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity with the Public Works Advisory Board to visit the Bosman side of this property, where we could see the conduit coming up from the Mount Pleasant Circle side. It's a good size. I don't remember exactly how large it is, but it's pretty sizable. That was already in place at that time, and they were starting to feed or to put together the sections of sewer main that goes inside that conduit. And I can tell you that there's plenty of room for this, and as we know, Eastern Utilities will help with the cost of that conduit by sharing that space with their infrastructure. So this is a really great opportunity for the county, and I'm thrilled that Eastern Utilities is partnering with us. I will move approval of the memorandum of understanding.
I have a question.
Yep.
Clay, is this providing any type of redundancy? Or is this
Yes, it actually is, and it's a good question. Thank you very much. Especially for those who have critical infrastructure, it's going to allow Eastern Utilities on their broadband project to be able to have a loop.
Okay.
So it'll be able to backfeed the area.
Okay.
For example, we have a public safety tower down there. It'll give us redundancy for operational of that tower. So
That's
thank
the only
you.
question I had. I just wanted to make
Great.
sure that there was redundancy there.
From a financial standpoint, I mean, we had to spend the additional, what, 180,000 for the hard bottom and the drilling and everything, so this helps recoup a very large chunk of that, so.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
With that
Yeah.
said, I'll second Mr. Lesher's motion.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
And council, that completes your county manager report for
Okay.
this week. Thank you.
Sounds good. Good job. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Do we have a list?
Yes, I have Mr. Riggin is here. This is Mr. Phil Riggin, nonprofit activities.
Yep. Come on up, sir.
Again, my name is Phil Riggin. I'm a resident of Easton Club East here in Easton, and my address is 29736 Sullivan Drive. I've attended a number of your meetings in recent months as a new member or new resident here in Easton. Although you didn't do it tonight because your agenda dictated other things to do, some of which were very weighty. You have made a habit of congratulating people who are engaged in community service and bringing them in here to express your gratitude, to bring them in here to accept proclamations that you prepared to recognize their work. And that's heartening, very heartening. But I don't know that how often you folks receive gratitude and appreciation for the sorts of things that you do, and having I know that elected public officials frequently don't get thanked for what they do. But I want to just say one thing about that, one primary thing. I've done a little bit of research, and it's not scientific research, but research nonetheless, that you folks, the 5 of you, as a group, have volunteered or do volunteer now on behalf of more than 40 organizations here in the area. I want to say that again. You either have volunteered or do still volunteer on behalf of more than 40 nonprofit or associated organizations here in this county. That's an amazing record. I think actually that your record in that regard surpasses your colleagues in virtually any other county council or county commission entity here on the Eastern Shore, and I'd be willing to venture a guess even in the state of Maryland. I mean, you epitomize, I think, the old adage: if you want to get something done, go find a busy person, and that frequently is the case. All of this, of course, is in addition to your time that you spend behind the scenes and at these meetings and what you do in your current job as county council members. Finally, I want to say that I think that your record of commitment to community service should be publicized, and that the public should be aware of it. Now, I'm not going to offer any suggestions on how that should happen, but it seems to me that people in this county should know when they've elected the 5 of you that they elected obviously qualified people, talented people, but truly, truly good people. And I do think that is something the public needs to hear. Now, you can argue with my math about the numbers of organizations that you folks have supported over the years. I do know it ranges from mentoring youth to dealing with homelessness. It's a pretty wide variety of activity. I do know, and I shouldn't say I didn't know. I would guess that what you've done has directly affected the lives of not just hundreds, but thousands of people in this community, in this area, this county. When you consider youth programs, I mean, you're affecting 15 or 20 kids or whatever it may be, just like that. And I suspect that what you've done has probably affected at least 2 generations of people here in this county, and perhaps even more. So I think all of you should get a raise.
Okay, so I want to comment on one thing.
Yes.
You can have much time as you want.
Yeah, I know.
I
that
appreciate
you, I know
that.
you all have a lot of time
Yeah.
at your disposal.
Now, I really
yeah.
appreciate the great comments, and, you know, we've noticed you've been here last couple months or 3 months or whatever.
It's been something I've been thinking about doing
Yeah.
for several weeks now, and
Yeah.
and so, you know.
Okay, thanks a lot.
It should
for-
be publicized.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr.
Appreciate
Reagan.
it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the list, or?
Well, there was one more.
What?
And
Yep.
I don't believe.
I think we're good?
Kevin,
Okay,
yeah, he left.
okay, good, okay. Step?
I'd like to wish everyone
Yeah.
a Merry Christmas
Yeah.
and Happy New Year. Travel safe if you're traveling. Enjoy time, family, and friends. And looking forward to 2025.
Yep.
Thank you all.
That's good. Mr. Lesher?
I'll add my best wishes for Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, any of the holidays that you may celebrate, that they be safe and happy for you and your family. I will say that to keep us occupied, several members of council will be heading off to the Maryland Association of Counties, or MACO conference. I look forward in particular to sessions on Maryland future power needs and power distribution, on housing, and on cannabis, about which we had a workshop earlier just this afternoon. We have more to learn. We have more to bring back from what we see in best practices in other jurisdictions, not only across the state, but in some cases with these speakers from well beyond the state's borders.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
Well, I'd just like to quote Irving Berlin about this holiday season in May. You have a very merry and bright holiday season.
That sounds great. Sounds great.
And I'll just echo what my colleague said, you know, Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy Hanukkah. But also, it was really nice what you said. We very seldom get to hear that sitting up here. Lynn asked today, we were just talking about that because I spent most of my day making silent auction baskets today before coming here. So yes, we all contribute widely to our community, and I believe I can speak for all of us and say we truly enjoy, you know, transforming the lives of not only the youth in our community, but also the adults that we support too through the homeless shelters and the senior citizens that Lynn support as well. But thank you. You are a breath of fresh air to us, because sitting up here, I'm up here like, I'm tired. I'm tired, but I still got work to do when I get home. So thank you.
Yeah.
And again, Merry Christmas to all and Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, that's great, great. And like my colleague said, Merry Christmas, and that was a breath of fresh air, that's for sure. And we welcome you anytime. Now, you're up here now. Don't come on down here. Okay, don't come on down now. You're good. So, but I want to thank council too for we've had a great year, and we've done some really great work. And on that comment, I want to thank staff. You guys have worked hard this year for us and made us look really good, and we can't thank you enough, your whole team. And that's with all our employees. We have close to 400. Yeah, close to 400 employees, you know, full and part-time. So I want to thank them. They've done a great job for us this year, done a great job for the county, worked hard for us, you know. So, and I want to do a handout to Greg, my security over here. So he does a great job, and we really appreciate you week in, week out, helping us out, and all the police force does, and the deputies, and we can't thank you enough for protecting us. Okay? Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I can't.
Yeah.
I have to say that on behalf of those 400 employees, who are incredibly dedicated,
yes,
we thank you. You help us make our job easy because you rise to the occasion, and you support us, and we take our lead from you. You set the policy, and then we work really hard to try to carry it out. But we're very happy and proud to work with a council like you. So I just jump on Mr. Riggins' praise
Yes,
for you.
yeah.
You don't get the credit you deserve. You're 5 people that raised your hand and said, I'll do it, and you all see life through different lenses on different subjects, but you agree, you disagree, but you don't do it. You keep that civil discord properly.
Yep.
You keep the
Yep.
bar high,
Yep.
and we appreciate that.
Yep, thank you, great, that's great, so, all right, Mr. Lesher?
The County Council's next meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, beginning at 5 o'clock p.m. The council will be convening an open session at 3:30 p.m. and then adjourning into closed session as listed on the statement for closing that meeting. On Tuesday, January 7th, the Talbot County Council will be meeting with the Board of Education at 5 o'clock p.m. at the Easton High School Culinary Arts Program. The meeting is open to the public. Therefore, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting and reconvene as noted?
So moved.
And a second.
Okay, we got a motion second. Madam Secretary, could you call the vote?
Mr. Callahan?
Aye.
Mr. Stepp?
Aye.
Mr. Lesher?
Aye.
Ms. Milky?
Aye.
Ms. Hayes?
Aye.
Okay, thanks a lot, I appreciate it, have a good night, good Christmas.